I didn't expect the train to feel that long, not because of the distance, because of what it carried. Hope weighs more than luggage. I sat by the window, hands folded around my purse like it might slide away if I loosened my grip. The countryside passed in a blur of green and gray, towns I didn't know, lives that weren't mine. My knees ached. They'd been aching for years now, but that morning I didn't complain. Pain was familiar. Disappointment was worse. I checked the time again, even though I already knew it. Plenty of time. Enough time to remember everything. Justin was graduating high school today. My grandson, 17 years of scraped knees, late-night fevers, spelling tests spread across my kitchen table. 17 years of me showing up. Not loudly, not dramatically, just always there. I reached into my purse and felt the small box again. Still there, a watch, simple, quiet. No ticking sound. I'd chosen it that way on purpose. Some people don't like noise following them around. I'd learned that early in life. The engraving was short, honest, always with you. Not poetry, not fancy, just the truth. The train slowed as it pulled into the station. My heart picked up speed, like it always did when I got close to people I loved. I straightened my coat, navy blue, pressed this morning, and checked my hair in the reflection of the window. Same bun I'd worn for years. Dependable, out of the way. I stepped onto the platform and scanned the crowd. Families everywhere. Balloons, school colors, laughter. Cameras already raised, like no one wanted to miss a second of this moment. And then I saw him, Greg, my son. He stood near the edge of the platform, hands buried deep in his pockets, shoulders tight. He wasn't smiling. That should have been my first warning. I raised my hand and started toward him. He didn't move. By the time I reached him, his eyes were already darting around, like he hoped someone might interrupt us. "Mom," he said, quietly, too quietly, "you shouldn't have come." The words landed harder than I expected. I started, then stopped. "What do you mean?" He exhaled through his nose, frustration masked as concern. "This just isn't a good time." I waited for him to laugh, to say he was joking, to reach out and hug me like he used to. He didn't. "I thought I'd surprise Justin," I said. My voice sounded small even to me. "It's his graduation." Greg shifted his weight, looked past me, anywhere but my face. "He doesn't even know you're here," he muttered. "And honestly, Mom, maybe it's better that way. Better." That word sat between us like something rotten. I tightened my grip on my purse. "You said I had a seat." He hesitated. That pause told me everything before he opened his mouth. "That was before," he said. "Paulina's aunt flew in last minute. You know how it is." I nodded slowly. Of course I did. There was always someone else, someone more convenient, Someone who fit better in photographs. So you gave her my seat, I said. He didn't deny it. She came all this way, he replied, like distance was something I'd never known. Like 9 hours on a train didn't count. Like aching joints and careful planning were invisible. I looked at him then, really looked. This wasn't the boy I'd packed lunches for in brown paper bags. This was a man polished by comfort, pressed jacket, careful words, someone who'd learned how to rearrange people without touching them. I'll find my own way, I said. Greg opened his mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to explain, but I turned before he could finish. I walked out of the station alone, past the vendors selling school banners, past parents laughing too loudly, past the smell of popcorn and cut grass that made my chest tighten for reasons I didn't yet understand. I kept walking until I reached the parking lot. That's where I sat, inside a rented silver sedan, engine off, hands resting uselessly in my lap. 2 hours until the ceremony. 2 hours until my grandson would walk across a stage I wasn't allowed to sit near. I turned on the air conditioning. It rattled a little, like it wasn't sure it wanted to work, but eventually it settled. I unwrapped the half sandwich I depacked from home and took a bite I couldn't taste. Cars poured in around me. Shiny SUVs, luxury sedans, people stepping out dressed like success came with a dress code. I counted them, not because it mattered, because counting was easier than thinking about my seat. That's what it came back to. Not the chair itself, the erasure. I had been there for every invisible moment. Every quiet sacrifice, every time someone needed help but didn't want to ask. And today, I'd been replaced by a stranger with better timing. I opened my purse and checked the envelope again. The watch, the card. I reread the note I'd written weeks ago. My handwriting careful, steady. I've loved you every day of your life, no matter the distance. I folded it back up. Maybe I'd mail it. Maybe I'd leave it at his door. Maybe I wouldn't give it at all. I didn't know yet. A knock on my window startled me. A young woman stood outside, staff badge, clipboard, sun-flushed face. "Are you here for the ceremony?" she asked kindly. "I was supposed to be," I said. She hesitated, then nodded. "The auditorium opens soon. Parking's limited. So I just wanted to let you know." "Thank you," I replied. "I won't be long." She smiled and walked away. I watched her clipboard bounce as she went lists, names, seats. None of them mine. I leaned back and looked toward the entrance. That's when I saw Justin. Even from far away, I knew him tall, slightly hunched, like he hadn't yet learned how much space he was allowed to take up. My heart stuttered. He looked beautiful. Not perfect, not polished, real. He laughed as someone hugged him. Paulina, probably. Then another woman, elegant, confident, clasped his shoulders. The aunt. He smiled for the cameras. He didn't look around. That hurt more than anything else. When the doors closed behind him, something inside me did too. And for the first time in years, I cried quietly, pointlessly. The kind of tears no one notices. The kind that come when you realize you mattered more in memory than in the present. I wiped my face, angry at myself. Then I opened my phone, and everything changed. I stared at my phone for a long time before touching it. Not because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Because once I did it, there would be no pretending this was a misunderstanding. No soft excuses left. No walking it back. I opened my banking app. The screen loaded slowly, like it was giving me time to change my mind. There it was. Every charge, every vendor, every polite little description that hid how much of myself I'd poured into this day. Catering, flowers. Photography, audio setup, decor rentals, all of it billed to my account. My account. I hadn't been asked. I never was. Somewhere along the way, it had simply become assumed. Grandma would handle it. Grandma always did. I thought about the times I'd paid quietly. Greg's mortgage hiccup. Paulina's kitchen upgrade before the baby shower. Justin's school fees when the scholarships hadn't come through yet. I never announced it. Never demanded gratitude. That wasn't why I did it. I did it because that's what you do when you love people. But love, I was learning, doesn't mean disappearing. My thumb hovered over the screen. Cancel transaction. I pressed it. The screen blinked. Then the message appeared. Cancellation request submitted. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It wasn't relief. It was finality. $12,000. Just like that dot not gone. Just reclaimed. The car was silent after that. Not awkward. Not tense. Still. Like the pause after something irreversible. I cracked the window open and let the warm air in. Somewhere nearby, a band started tuning their instruments. The sound drifted across the parking lot, bright and cheerful, completely unaware of what had just shifted. The ceremony was starting. I didn't move. I watched families stream inside, watched doors close, watched joy continue without me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't chase after it. A movement near my car caught my eye. A young woman stood a few feet away, dark curls pinned back, green dress brushing her knees. She looked unsure, like she was debating whether to interrupt me. She finally stepped closer. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Are you Mrs. Mason?" I blinked. "Yes." Her face softened with relief. "I'm Melissa, Justin's friend." That stopped me. "He talks about you a lot," she added quickly. "Says you make the best peach cobbler he's ever had." Something in my chest loosened just a little. "He always says that," I replied. She shifted her weight. "I saw you sitting here earlier and thought maybe you were lost, or maybe you needed something. I studied her face. No agenda, no performance, just kindness. Would you like to sit for a minute? I asked, nodding toward the passenger seat. She hesitated, then smiled. Okay. We sat quietly for a bit. Applause drifted through the open window as names were called. Parents cheering, cameras clicking. I didn't get a seat, I said eventually. She looked down. I know. I turned to her. You know, I was helping with setup yesterday, she said softly. Your name was on a card, front row, right next to Justin's. My throat tightened. What happened? I asked, though I already knew. She swallowed. Paulina's cousin said, you weren't coming anymore, that you'd probably get confused. I closed my eyes, confused. I'm sorry, Melissa added quickly. I thought maybe you knew. I do now, I said. She sat with me in that truth without trying to fix it. That mattered. Do you want me to bring Justin to you? She asked after a moment. I thought about it. About forcing a moment. About being dragged into a scene. About Greg's face if that happened. No, I said gently. If he wants to see me, he'll know where to look. The ceremony ended not long after. Doors opened. Graduates spilled out laughing, caps crooked, arms full of flowers and gifts. Parents rushed forward like they'd been waiting their whole lives for that exact second. Justin emerged with them. He looked taller, somehow freer. He hugged Paulina, then the aunt, then Greg, who laughed too loudly and clapped him on the back like he'd done the work himself. I watched. I always watched. Then Justin paused, just for a second. His hand slipped into his pocket. He pulled out his phone. His expression shifted. Confusion, then doubt. Greg leaned in, said something. Justin shook his head, and then he walked away. Not dramatically, not angrily, with purpose. My heart started to race. He scanned the crowd. His eyes moved past faces, past cars, past expectations. Then they found me. I didn't hide. I didn't wave. I just sat there. He stopped. Time slowed in that strange way it does when something long-awaited finally happens. Then he started toward me, across the grass, across the lot, ignoring voices calling his name. He reached the car and leaned down as I rolled the window open. Grandma, he said. His voice cracked. I nodded. Hi, sweetheart. He looked me over, my coat, my hands, my face. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't. I believe you, I replied. He swallowed hard. Dad told me you couldn't come. Said you were tired. Silence filled the space between us. Is that for me? He asked, gesturing toward my purse. I handed him the envelope. He opened it carefully, read the card, saw the watch. His eyes filled instantly. I picked it because it's quiet, I said. Some people don't like the noise. He nodded, unable to speak. Always with you, he read aloud. I reached out and touched his arm. I am. He looked up at me then, really looked. "Can I sit with you for a bit?" he asked. I unlocked the door, and just like that, everything shifted again. Justin slid into the passenger seat like he'd done it 100 times before. Carefully, like he wasn't sure if the moment was fragile. The door closed with a soft click, and suddenly the world outside felt far away. The noise, the cheering, the version of the day that wasn't meant for me. He sat there holding the watch in both hands, turning it over slowly, tracing the engraving with his thumb. "I didn't know," he said again, softer this time, like saying it twice might undo something. "I know," I replied. He leaned back and stared at the dashboard. "I should have asked more questions." "You were busy," I said. He shook his head. "No, I was comfortable." That honesty landed heavier than any apology. We sat in silence for a moment. Not awkward, just full. Then he looked at me, really looked. "They gave your seat away, didn't they?" "Yes, to her," he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. He exhaled hard through his nose, anger flickering across his face, and then disappearing just as quickly. He wasn't dramatic by nature. He never had been, even as a kid. His anger went inward first. "I saw your name on the list," he said. "Front row, right next to mine." I didn't answer. "They told me you canceled," he continued. "Said you didn't want to deal with crowds." I turned my head and met his eyes. I rode 9 hours on a train. That was all it took. His jaw tightened. "I'm sorry," he said, and this time it wasn't reflex. It was earned. He glanced toward the school building. "They're all heading to the dinner soon." "I know. You're not going," he said. It wasn't a question either. I shook my head. He hesitated, then asked, "Can I take you somewhere instead?" I studied him, the man he was becoming, the boy still tucked somewhere behind his eyes. "Like where?" I asked. He shrugged. "Somewhere real. Burgers maybe, milkshakes. Somewhere I don't have to pretend." I smiled. "I'd like that." His face changed instantly. Relief. Gratitude. Something like coming home. "I'll drive," he said, reaching for the keys. "You've been sitting in this car too long." The drive was quiet, not empty, comfortable. He drove carefully, one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the gear shift like he was relearning freedom. The school disappeared behind us. So did the noise. "Do you even know where you're going?" I asked. He grinned. "I think so." We pulled onto a narrow street lined with old storefronts. A gas station that had seen better days. A hardware store with its windows papered over. Then the diner came into view. A squat brick building, flickering neon sign, Hank's. He parked and turned the engine off. "We used to come here after Little League games," he said, "when Mom was still around, when Dad was always busy." I remembered. Grilled cheese, curly fries, him asking if I thought he'd ever hit a home run. I always told him yes. He held the door open for me. The bell jingled overhead as we stepped inside. Nothing had changed. Same chipped booths, same laminated menus, same old fan humming overhead like it was tired but loyal. The waitress looked up. "Two," Justin nodded. "Corner booth. If it's free." We slid in. The vinyl was warm from the sun. He picked up the menu, then set it down. "I already know. Grilled cheese and a chocolate shake," I said. He smiled. "And curly fries. Some things don't change." I ordered the same. When the waitress walked away, he leaned forward, elbows on the table. "So, what happens now?" "With what?" I asked. "With Dad, with Paulina, with all of it." I stirred my water slowly. "I think I'm done." He watched me closely. "You've been paying for everything for years. Being there, fixing things, even when no one noticed." "I noticed," I said. "But it was never about the money," he said. "No, it was about making sure we had what we needed." "Yes, and they forgot to make sure you did," he finished. I nodded. He sat back, absorbing that. The food arrived not long after. Golden grilled cheese, curly fries piled high, milkshakes thick enough to need patience. He took a bite and closed his eyes. "I miss this. It tastes the same," I said. "Of course it does." We ate quietly for a while. No speeches, no fixing, just the comfort of being present. Then he asked, "You're staying in town tonight?" "Motel near the station," I said. "Early train tomorrow. I can drive you. You don't have to." "I want to." I looked at him. "It's not about the ride. It's about where you go when this dinner ends." He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I don't know what I'm going to say to him." "You'll figure it out. He's going to be furious. I know. He'll blame me. Let him." He frowned. "That's not fair. Most things aren't." He stared at the table, then looked up. "Do you forgive him?" I thought about that. About years of being tolerated instead of welcomed. About being thanked only when it was convenient. "I don't know if it's about forgiveness anymore," I said. "It's about clarity." The waitress dropped the check. I reached for it out of habit, but Justin was faster. "I'm allowed to treat you once," he said. I smiled, careful. "It's addicting." Outside, the sky had softened into evening, pink and gold bleeding into blue. He walked me to the car and opened the door. "Can I walk you to the motel?" he asked. I nodded. We drove quietly. When we arrived, he walked me to the front desk just like he promised. Outside my room, he hesitated. "You'll call me?" he asked. "I will. And if I visit this summer, the peach cobbler won't bake itself." He stepped forward, then stopped, then wrapped his arms around me tightly. "I love you," he whispered. I held him, and for the first time that day, I let my eyes close. Justin waited until I unlocked the door before he left. He didn't rush, didn't say anything unnecessary, just nodded once, like he was sealing a promise he hadn't said out loud. I watched him walk back across the parking lot from behind the thin motel curtains. He didn't slouch the way he used to. Didn't look like he was apologizing to the world anymore. When his car finally disappeared down the road, the room felt very quiet. Not lonely, not clear. I sat on the edge of the bed and took off my shoes. My feet throbbed, the kind of ache that comes from standing strong instead of standing long. I unpinned my hair and let it fall loose around my shoulders. The mirror caught my reflection for a moment, older, tired. Still here. My phone buzzed, Greg. I watched it light up, then go dark. A minute later, it buzzed again. I didn't answer. When the third call came, I set the phone face down on the nightstand. I wasn't punishing him. I was choosing myself. I lay back on the bed fully dressed, hands folded over my stomach, listening to the low hum of the air conditioner. Outside, a truck passed. Somewhere a door slammed. Life went on without asking for permission. Eventually, I sat up and reached for the hotel phone. I dialed the bank. Richard answered on the second ring. Calm, familiar. Professional, Mrs. Mason, he said. Everything all right? Yes, I replied. I just want to confirm that the cancellations I submitted today won't be reversed. No, ma'am. Everything was stopped before authorization. The vendors have been notified. Good. There was a pause. Is there anything else I can help you with? I hesitated, then said, yes, I'd like to schedule a full review. I'm thinking about restructuring my will. He didn't sound surprised. I can arrange that for Monday morning. That would be appreciated. When I hung up, the room felt different. Lighter, like something heavy had been set down for good. I slept deeply that night, not from exhaustion, from clarity. I woke before dawn, the sky barely touched with blue. I dressed slowly, packed my bag, and sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, breathing. Justin's note was still in my purse. I hadn't read it yet. Some things deserve the right moment. On the train ride home, I unfolded it. The handwriting was the same as it had always been. All caps, slightly uneven. Thank you for not letting them turn you into a shadow. I see you. I always will. I pressed the paper to my chest and closed my eyes as the train rocked gently forward. For the first time in years, I wasn't running toward anyone. I was returning. Home greeted me quietly, sunlight across the porch, the faint smell of lavender from the linen closet, mail tucked under the mat. Nothing urgent, nothing demanding. I made tea, not because I needed it, because the ritual reminded me who I was. That's when my phone rang again. Greg. I let it ring. Then came a message. Mom, what's going on? The venue called. The florist says payment was withdrawn. Justin's not answering. Call me back. I didn't respond. Another message followed minutes later. You embarrassed us. Paulina is furious. I set the phone down and took a sip of my tea. It was hot, strong, just the way I liked it. By evening, there were 9 missed calls, 4 voicemails, 2 messages from Paulina herself. Her tone was clipped, polite, furious beneath the surface. Edith, I understand several payments were canceled. This has put us in a difficult position. Please call so we can resolve this like adults. I smiled faintly at that last line. Like adults. Funny how adulthood always seemed to mean silence when I was hurting, and conversation only when they needed something. I spent the rest of the evening in the garden, pulled weeds, watered the soil, watched bees drift between blossoms without apology. I was tired, but it was a good tired. The next morning, I went into town. I visited my lawyer, signed documents, reassigned power of attorney. Greg's name was crossed out cleanly and replaced with my own. No drama, no announcement. Just ink. I opened a safe deposit box and placed Justin's note inside, along with a copy of the watch engraving. Always with you. Let them say I was petty. Dramatic, unreasonable. I wasn't in their story anymore. That evening, my phone rang again. This time, it was Justin. Hey, he said softly. I talked to Dad. I closed my eyes. How did that go? Worse than I hoped. Better than he deserved. I waited. I told him I know what happened. Justin continued. That you were there. That I saw you. My chest tightened. I told him I won't be taking the college money he set aside. He added, I've got a better source now. You don't have to prove anything. I said, I know, he replied, but I wanted you to know. We talked for a while after that, about school, about summer, about nothing important and everything that mattered. After we hung up, I stepped onto the porch. The sky was deep blue now, calm and wide. Greg had left a bag on the step sometime during the day. A peace offering, roast chicken on rye. My favorite. I picked it up, walked to the compost bin, and dropped it in. I didn't open it. Some things can't be fixed with food anymore. The knock came just after lunch. Not loud, not hesitant either. Precise. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and stood still for a moment before opening the door. Something about the sound told me this wasn't Greg. He always knocked like he was already halfway inside. I pulled the door open. The woman standing on my porch wore pearl earrings and a silk scarf that probably cost more than my grocery bill for a month. Her posture was practiced, calm, accustomed to being welcomed. Double quotes, Mrs. Mason, she asked. Yes, she offered her hand. Elaine Ferris, Paulina's aunt. I looked at her hand for a second longer than necessary before shaking it. Cool, confident, unused to being refused. I hope I'm not intruding, she said. I got your address from the event organizer. She said she wasn't supposed to give it to me. I stepped aside. What can I do for you? She glanced past me into the house. The framed photos, the crocheted pillow, the quiet proof of a life lived without polish. May I come in for a few minutes? I considered saying no. Then I thought about all the times I'd been expected to shrink quietly. Come in, I said. She sat when I motioned toward the chair, folding her hands neatly in her lap. She didn't fidget, didn't scan the room nervously. She was used to being listened to. I owe you an apology, she said. That surprised me. Do you? I asked. Yes, for taking your seat at the graduation. I shook my head slowly. You didn't take it. It was given to you. Her eyes flickered. Still, I didn't know it wasn't freely available. Greg said his mother had decided not to attend. I nodded. People often believe men who speak confidently. She gave a small, dry smile. You're sharper than they said. That depends, I replied. Who's they? She didn't answer directly. At the banquet, she continued. After everything fell apart, I started asking questions. I don't like being used, and I certainly don't like being lied to. I said nothing. Elaine reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. This was sent to their address by mistake. I took it. The university logo was printed in the corner. Justin's name on the return line. Inside was a photo. Justin in his gown, standing in front of a campus building. The watch was visible on his wrist. Deliberately, always with you. Below the photo was a note. Thought you'd want the first real picture. Love, Jay. My hands trembled slightly as I held it. He's a good boy, Elaine said quietly. Yes, I replied. He is. She stood to leave. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, Mrs. Mason, I think they underestimated you. I met her gaze. They always have. After she left, I pinned the photo to the corkboard in my kitchen. It wasn't the picture that mattered. It was the choice. That afternoon, I signed the last of the paperwork Richard had sent. Trust documents, account transfers, clear lines drawn, where Fogg had lived for years. Justin's name was their official. Protected. The doorbell rang again the next day. This time, it was Greg. He stood on the porch holding a white paper bag, like an apology wrapped in wax paper. Hi, Mom, he said. I didn't invite him in. I thought we could talk, he added. We are talking, I replied. You embarrassed us, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Interesting opening. You could have handled it quietly. I did, I said. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even sit inside. You canceled everything. Yes. Paulina's name hovered unspoken between us. You exposed us, he said. No, Greg. I exposed you. There's a difference. He didn't like that. Justin came to me. I continued. Not because you told him. Because you didn't. I was trying to protect him. From me, I asked. From the woman who raised him when his mother left. From the woman who paid for his tutors. his uniforms. Greg said nothing. I'm done funding your comfort, I said calmly. If you want respect, earn it. He held out the bag. Roast chicken on rye, your favorite. I didn't take it. You should eat it before it gets cold, I said, and closed the door. I didn't cry. There were no tears left for him. That night, Justin called. He came by, I said. A pause, then relief in his voice. I'm glad you didn't let him in. We talked about summer, about college, about nothing heavy. Before hanging up, he said, I've been thinking. Maybe I come stay with you for a bit. The porch railing still needs fixing, I said. I can do that. I smiled. Outside, the garden was quiet. The kind of quiet that means things have finally settled where they belong. Paulina came on a Tuesday, late morning, the kind of time when people think you'll be polite because it is not dramatic enough to cause a scene. I was in the kitchen, hands dusted with flour, peach slices resting in a bowl on the counter. The smell of sugar and butter hung in the air. Comfort, familiarity. The knock was light, controlled. I didn't rush. When I opened the door, she stood perfectly dressed. Linen pants, oversized sunglasses, phone in one hand, keys in the other. Everything about her said prepared, Mrs. Mason, she said coolly. I see you're well. I am, I replied. Her gaze flicked past me. Justin's here. He is. She exhaled through her nose. Did you think it was appropriate not to tell me? I smiled gently. I didn't think about you at all. That landed harder than any insult. She shifted her weight. What happened at graduation wasn't personal. Everything is personal when you erase someone. I didn't erase you. No, I said calmly. But you benefited from it. Her jaw tightened. I won't be villainized for something I didn't control. You don't need to be villainized, I said. You need to be irrelevant. Her mouth opened, closed. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Justin appeared in the hallway, towel slung over his shoulder from fixing the porch railing. He stopped when he saw her. Hey, he said, not warmly, not coldly, just aware. Paulina turned to him instantly. We need to talk. We already are, he replied, just not privately. Her eyes flicked back to me. This is between us. No, Justin said. This is about us. Silence stretched. I didn't tell you I was coming, she said to him. I noticed. I thought space would help. Space only helps when it's honest, he said. She turned back to me. You've turned him against me. I shook my head. I didn't turn him anywhere. I stepped out of the way. That's when she realized she'd lost control. She adjusted her sunglasses. He'll come back to me. I met her gaze. They always do, she added. Not this time, I said, and closed the door. Justin let out a breath he'd been holding. She won't be back, I said. He nodded. She was never really here. That afternoon, we worked in the garden. He fixed the railing like he promised. painted it white. 2 coats, clean edges. I didn't tell him to. He just did it. That night, over peach cobbler still warm from the oven, he said, I thought loyalty meant choosing between people. And now, I asked, and now I think loyalty should be part of love. I smiled. The next morning, I found him in the backyard, barefoot in the dew, staring at the old bench, waiting for a sign. I asked. Maybe, he said. You already got one. He nodded. We spent the day doing ordinary things, laundry, cleaning, reorganizing the spice rack. He moved through the house like someone who belonged. When he left that weekend, he hugged me longer than necessary. I'll be back, he said. You don't have to promise, I replied, but I want to. After he drove off, I made tea and sat by the window. The house was quiet, not empty, full. The house settled differently after Justin left. Not quieter, truer. I noticed it in small things. The way the porch railing no longer creaked. The way the kitchen light hit the table at noon. The way I didn't check my phone every time it buzzed. Some habits take years to build. Letting them go takes one clear decision. I woke early the next morning, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The garden needed watering. The basil had grown wild while I was busy saving other people's lives. I stood there with the hose in my hand, watching the soil darken, thinking about all the things I used to confuse with love. Endurance, silence, making myself smaller so others could stand taller. That wasn't love. That was survival. My phone rang mid-morning. Greg. I watched it buzz once, twice, then stop. A message followed. I just want to understand why you did this. I read it once, then I deleted it. Not because I didn't have an answer, because I was done explaining myself to people who only listened when it benefited them. A week passed, then another. Life didn't explode. The world didn't end. The family didn't collapse the way Greg always warned it would. If I ever stopped holding things together, things didn't fall apart. They simply rearranged themselves without me propping them up. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Greg's handwriting, heavy, careful, like he was trying to look calm while pressing too hard. It read, I'm sorry you felt unwelcome. That was it. Not I'm sorry I did this. Not I was wrong. Just sorry I felt something. I folded the letter and slid it into the back of a drawer beneath the silverware liner. Somewhere it couldn't hurt me. Somewhere it couldn't pretend to matter. That evening, I opened my recipe book. The old one, butter-stained, pages curled from years of heat and hands. I flipped through until I found a blank page and wrote, Justin's cobbler, not because the recipe had changed, because the meaning had, below the ingredients, instead of instructions, I wrote, make this when someone you love finds their way back. I closed the book. I felt full. Justin called that night. I fixed the dorm situation, he said. Housing came through. I knew it would. He hesitated. Dad's still angry, I know, but I'm not, he said. I don't feel guilty anymore. That mattered more than anything else he could have said. Weeks turned into months. Justin visited when he could, fixed things around the house, cooked badly at first, then better, asked questions, listened. He didn't rush me, didn't ask me to forgive, didn't ask me to pretend. He just showed up. One morning, while he was still asleep in the guest room, I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the photo pinned to the corkboard. The watch on his wrist caught the light. Always with you. He hadn't just worn it. He'd claimed it. That's how I knew I hadn't been erased. I had been remembered. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a story about a seat at a graduation. It was about what happens when a woman finally stands up from every table she built, but was never invited to sit at. It was about choosing peace over performance, clarity over comfort, presence over permission. Some people will call that selfish. Let them. I call it survival done right. If you've ever been told to stay quiet for the sake of harmony, if you've ever watched from the parking lot while others celebrated on your dime, if you've ever felt yourself shrinking so others could feel important, hear this clearly. You were never the problem. You were the root. And roots don't disappear. They grow deeper, stronger, wiser. They always do. And sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is stop asking for a seat and build her own table.